Welcome to Killings 3 Cents. Been a while we did an episode, but I wanted to go over this little clip here from the other day. It's Tucker Carlson interviewing Mike Pence, and Mike Pence basically goes on how he wants to support and help Ukraine and win their war. And then Tucker Carlson asks basically, good that you have a lot of passion, to help the Ukrainians, but do you have anything for the American citizens? And if you've been on Twitter, Mike Pence just completely punts the answer here and just ends probably any chance that he has ever being reelected. But I actually just want to go over his statements a little more than you catch in your normal 50, 60 clip video on Twitter. And I just want to explain a few things about, conservatism, liberalism, and just kind of like things that people are missing that no one's actually catching on. So we're going to start this video at the 17-minute, 39-second mark. And Mike Pence is going to go on about talking about Ukraine and, the financial aid that we have given the country. Let's begin.
For it. If people are being persecuted for their religious beliefs, I won't stand for it.
They were talking about some religious beliefs just earlier in the video.
Our nation is supporting or our allies are supporting. Yes. Period, paragraph. But let me say to you, our national interest in Ukraine, I believe, is born of the fact that I spent 10 years on the Foreign Affairs Committee in the House of Representatives. I spent 4 years as Vice President. I've met
You don't need to spend 10 years in the House committee to figure out what's right or wrong about Ukraine war.
Vladimir Putin.
A lot of people met Vladimir Putin. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Let me tell you, if Vladimir Putin overruns Ukraine, I have no doubt that in a short period of time, that Russian military is going to cross a border of a NATO country that our armed forces will have to go and defend.
A lot of people do believe this because if you have any understanding or reading about Russia and their major strategic goals, they kind of want the same outline geography, the land that they had during the Soviet Union, because it's a better defensive position. The Russia has a problem where they have too little people and too much land to cover, and they're afraid that they get taken over, attacked, and that's kind of weird to think about as an American because you don't have this history. But if you actually start looking at Russian history, like the amount of times the army has just walked across the border into Russia is actually happens more often than you think, and that's always a worry. But that is a general reason why it is probably strategically correct to think they would go past Ukraine, because Ukraine's a stepping stone to like Poland and some other lands.
I started the day this morning at Rosie's in Zionsville, Indiana with my son, Captain Michael J. Pence in the United States Marine Corps.
Okay, kid in the military. Nice.
My son's a fighter pilot. My son-in-law is a Navy fighter pilot. And I'll tell you what, I never want to see American armed forces in Ukraine. I want to give the Ukrainian military what they need to fight and repel the Russian invasion. I think we need...
See, there's nothing wrong with that as a strategy. I mean, why send your own troops when you can use someone else's troops? Like, if the goal is to destroy the Russian army and to weaken and crumble it further down the path it's already going with its own self-inflicting wounds as a country it has, then yeah, giving money, like supplies to Ukraine to inflict as much damage as possible is a good strategy. The problem comes, like, what's the end goal, though? Like, yeah, okay, we're going to inflict damage to the Russian armies, but what's the actual deliverable? What is the measurable win or loss? Like, how do we track if we're winning or losing? What's the number? What are we measuring exactly? He doesn't give any actual, like, something to measure against.
Just stop them there so that our men and women in uniform are never called upon to stop that Russian military when they cross a border that we would have to defend.
So you would oppose...
So, like, he says, let's just stop them, and so that's too generic. Like, do we want original borders pre-invasion? Do we want more land, or do we want less land? Like, what exactly is what are we measuring? What's the end goal here?
Ukraine entering NATO. Because that would, of course, immediately require us to go to war with Russia, which you oppose.
I said very clearly that Ukrainian entrance into NATO should depend on when the war is over.
So he's basically saying, like, once Russia gives up, then we'll allow him in, but we're not going to do it before or after. Which is like, I don't know, it's kind of dumb. Like, either you do want Ukraine or you don't want Ukraine. You don't pick and choose when and where. It's either good now or never good. Or it is always good or never good. Either you're willing to use NATO or you're not willing to use NATO.
And I made that clear with President Zelensky that was my view. And what I understood in speaking with him was he understood that it needed to be conditional. If we were to allow Ukraine to join NATO today, then the obligations of the NATO treaty on mutual defense would initiate immediately, and we'd be pulled into a conflict. I don't want that to happen. But I do believe...
Why not? If you get pulled into conflict, maybe the war just ends sooner. Like, what are you afraid of? We already know the Russian military is kind of dog shit. They can't really conduct a real war.
That after the war is won... And
what is won? Once again, I'm coming back to the statement. What is won? Like, no one actually states exactly what does a winning war look like. It's just arbitrage, like, well, when we feel like it. Like, no. I need, like, to actually know what is and is not winning.
And over. That welcoming Ukraine...
I don't think it'll ever be over. It might just always be a standstill. It could be like a South Korea, North Korea thing where you just have two hostile countries always kind of looking at each other funny.
Into NATO, embracing them with open arms in the West is in the interest of our security and of our nation in the long term. Now
I do think Ukraine is best for our interest in the United States. I think the country that's gave us the most shit, Russia, like militarily and try and be a global bully to us. Like, this war is doing more damage for them and more good for us because they're already having population issues and they're sitting in their young males to go in war and die. Like, they're literally killing their future population earnings from this war more than they're gaining.
Also say, I think this fight is also about China, Tucker.
A little bit, yeah. I think China sees a lot what has happening in Ukraine and is in thinking about their own decisions. There's a few geopolitical commentators who kind of explain, like, China looked at what happened to Russia and all their theories went to dust. Especially the boycotts, and the other countries actually stop doing business with Russia because China can't handle that. China's a big country, but unlike Russia, they're not really self-efficient. Russia's self-efficient just in basic energy commodities. They're not really much more than that.
I know we don't talk about that enough. I know a lot of people say, and you may hear from some other candidates in this race, that we ought to be focused on China. Well,
Yeah. China, yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. You can be focused on both.
I gave the first major speech in our administration, changing administration policy on China. We called them out. We imposed tariffs. We rebuilt our military. I mean, in a very real sense, we were tougher on China than any administration in the modern era had ever been. Well,
yeah, we're realizing that since Ronald Reagan, that, yeah, even if you do business and help a communist country grow and be prosperous, they still kind of just like flip you the bird in a nutshell. They're just kind of like assholes to you. They don't appreciate, communist countries don't appreciate the capitalism that like America would bring to it. That's the problem. That's a big problem.
I really do believe that by giving the Ukrainian military what they need to repel the invasion, we will also send a deafening message to China.
This is true. I believe this is true.
That America and the free world will not tolerate China's military ambitions in the Asia Pacific, or their intention that becomes more clear by the day against Taiwan or any other place.
But
I think this is very true. I think China has looked at what Russia's done, what's happened to Russia, and has to reconsider everything. Now, I don't know if China's smart enough to be, hey, maybe we shouldn't invade Taiwan. I think they're going to make the mistake. I think something stupid's going to happen in that country someone's going to get the wrong message. You know, it's going to be a stupid game of like telephone. Someone said something and someone heard something else. Next thing you know, there's invasion Taiwan and everyone's fucking confused. That's how discombobulated I believe that whole government works.
I really do believe peace comes through.
Pause. Pause this real quick. The dog's barking. Okay. Sorry about that. The hand was protecting the family establishment from an Amazon package. So, apologies for any guard dog alerts. This is why she gets paid minimum wage. She's been asking for a raise, but she's just not getting a raise. Maybe I'll give her a little dog treat later. Okay, let's continue on this video. So he was going about Ukraine. Ukraine sends a message to China. You know, you're trying to kill two birds with one stone. I understand that as like a theory. I'm trying to think what's a philosophy how to handle both countries.
Strength, and the United States of America needs to continue to project strength. But let me say one last thing.
But we've run out of ammunition, so we're sending them cluster bombs. So
yeah, that's kind of new. We're sending them cluster bombs now. So, like, running out of ammunition, what he's talking about is, like, from what I've read, we basically sent Ukraine a lot of old ammunition that we don't use anymore, that's just kind of been sitting in the back drawer we've been keeping as spares. So we've been doing that. We've been sending a lot of weapon systems that we don't really need or don't use too often. We haven't been sending them, like, we're not sending them fresh equipment off the production line. We're sending them old used equipment or old extra equipment. Or spare, just abundance or surplus.
Because we've sent our ammunition to Ukraine, which has not yet won the war, whatever that means, no one has defined.
Yeah, same problem. No one has defined what a win looks like. That is a major problem with every fucking politician right now. No one will actually have the balls to say, this is what we want. No one will say that. This is exactly what we want. I want A, B, C, D. And then we're done. The project is complete. No one will say that. And that's a major, major problem with all these politicians. If you listen to that, you will notice no one actually gives a measurable deliverable for the war in Ukraine. And we're going to go more into that more. Well, let's just listen because I want to explain some more about that.
Find it. But isn't that prima facie evidence that we have become weaker militarily by our support from Ukraine, or how am I missing something?
Well,
we're out of ammunition, so we're sending cluster bombs.
Well, first off, since Joe Biden took office, he's been working to cut military spending. And frankly, the recent debt ceiling deal that was done, if they don't pass all their 13 appropriations bills, will result in a 1% cut in our military spending after inflation in 2025. Look, China is floating a new battleship every month in the Pacific.
If you know anything about China's Navy, that it's not really deep water capable. Like, it can't go from, say, China to America. China's Navy is only designed to protect the China Sea. They're more like smaller ships. I think they can't go more than... I have to look at the number because I want to say more than 500 kilometers away from the coast or round trip. They're not designed for like logistics like a U.S. Super Navy that could go ocean to ocean and be on its own for months on end.
We don't need to rebuild our military. We need to build a military strong enough to meet the challenges America will face in the 21st century. And as President of the United States, I'll do that. Amen. I promise you.
Last question on Ukraine, though. The Pentagon says that because of the munitions and the material we have sent to Ukraine, we're very low in our stockpiles. Is that a concern to you?
Yeah. On the 155 artillery.
Yeah, it's certain artillery shells. It's not... we're not... If we go to war, we have plenty of bullets. Okay, if we go to war, we have plenty of stuff to protect ourselves. We just don't have that extra assurance that we always had back in the past because we just had ammunition just staying in a shed, in a nutshell.
And I have no reason to disbelieve that. Look, it's the answer, though, is The answer is not to shrink from America's role as leader of the free world. The answer is to invest in our national defense.
See, this is what's separating old conservative Republicans and new conservative Republicans. The newer generations, we actually don't care as much protecting the world or being meddling in the world opinions and the world countries, because honestly, we're realizing we just get the fucking middle finger. Like, every time we help a country, they fucked us over. They don't hold up their end. NATO doesn't hold up their end. Other countries don't hold up their end. We just get, oh, American sucks, America that. Like, why are we protecting the free world if you hate us? It's like, why be a cop in a city where the city is trying to defund the police, or they say the police are dog shit? Like, why would you be a police officer in that city? You know, like, fine, you don't want me, I'm going to go home. And I think that's separate. I think America is becoming less and less of a leader militarily in the free world, and we're just going to say, fuck it, you guys deal with your own problems. And the only reason I think the Ukraine war is probably going to be one of the last wars that we really interfere with is because Russia has been such a pain in our fucking ass since, like, World War II, that, like, if we could just get rid of that whole government again, just get rid of it, like, weaken it and cripple it to the point where they can never, like, actually pester us again, it'd be great. I mean, I've always said, like, if any other country invaded Ukraine, I don't think America would give two shits. It's not that America loves Ukraine. I think it's more that America's just sick of Russia. It's like when you play sports teams, like, it's like when two sport teams plays. A lot of times it's not like, oh, I have a favorite team. It's like, no, I just hate the other team so much more. And I also think a lot of politicians don't recognize this.
I really do believe that. Look, remember, in a year and a half, and again, we have a strong disagreement on it.
Well, I'm not sure we do.
That's okay. Well, that'd be great if we didn't. But let me say to you, we've made real progress there. Look, a year and a half ago, Russia had the second most powerful military in the world. Today, they have the...
He's going to make the stupid joke. Now they had the only second most powerful military in Ukraine. Well, yeah, we realized, like, beginning the war that Russia cannot actually conduct a war. They literally ran out of gas to get to the capital of Ukraine, Kyiv.
Second most powerful military in Ukraine.
Really, I think we just assume that Russia had the most second powerful military world because we just kind of believe their propaganda and their bullshit. I don't think they haven't had the second most powerful army in the world probably since the 80s.
All right, that's progress. That's progress, and that's a result of what the United States and our allies have invested. But let me say one thing about Joe. Can I say one thing about Joe Biden on this? Okay. And I've been critical of him. Look, our administration came in, and the Obama-Biden administration had refused to give military support and resources to Ukraine. We ended that. We started providing Javelin missiles. I'll never forget standing in the woods a couple of weeks ago in a little town called Moshe, where the soldier told me about when the Russian tanks approached and how many soldiers they lost in the first 24 hours. And then the colonel looked at me and smiled and said, and then the Javelin missiles arrived. And I said, we sent you those Javelin missiles. And he said, yes, sir, you did. I mean, we provided arms to Ukraine so they would be better equipped for this moment.
But let me ask you a question. I'm sorry.
Joe Biden cut off military spending when he came in, and even after that heartless, unprovoked invasion, which Joe Biden actually said, we don't know what we'd do if it was a small invasion. I mean, he signaled incredible weakness, especially after that disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Afghanistan was a complete fuck up. Complete fuck up on the government part.
And all along the way, the Biden administration has been slow in providing military support. Make no mistake about this. We promised them 33 Abrams tanks in January. I heard again 2 weeks ago in Ukraine, they still don't have them. We've been telling them we'll train their F-16 pilots, but now they're saying maybe January we'll let somebody transfer some jets.
I'm sorry, Mr. Vice President, have you, I know you're running for president. You are distressed that the Ukrainians don't have enough American tanks. Every city in the United States has become much worse over the the past 3 years. Yeah. Drive around. There's not one city that's gotten better in the United States. Right. And it's visible. Our economy has degraded. The suicide rate has jumped. Public filth and disorder and crime have exponentially increased. Right. And yet, your concern is that the Ukrainians, a country most people can't find on a map, who've received tens of billions of U.S. tax dollars, don't have enough tanks. Right. I think it's a fair question to ask, like, where's the concern for the United States in that?
Well, it's not my concern.
And right then and there, it fucked up. Now, like, okay, let's just say the correct answer would have been, those are my concerns, and they equally need just as much attention or more than Ukraine. You know, that's all you gotta say, and that's all you have to do. Like, I don't know why he would say that's not my concern. I don't know why. Is he just too old? Is he just too old? Did he not get enough coffee? Like, how do you get away saying that's not my concern? Now, I just want to go back on the Ukraine thing, because this is where the highlight is, you know. We already know he's out. Not my concern. I mean, what's the difference between that statement and Joe Biden's concern with the American country? It's the same, you know. I just want to point out, I think a lot of conservatives in general do want Ukraine to win and live in peace and have their, at least their original borders pre-invasion back to a normal state and live on their lives and the bloodshed to stop. The problem is that we have a very liberal democratic government right now in the executive branch, you know, Joe Biden's administration, and they are using the same tactics to try to solve all problems that they ever have, and that is just to throw money at it. And if you look at the last, 2 years now? When did they invade? God, it's been so long. They invaded, 2022, I imagine? Yeah, 2022. Of February, so it's been almost a year and a half. If you look at every decision tactic any opinion from the Joe Biden administration or anyone that's in that, the answer has always been the same. We're just going to throw more money at it. And we know as conservatives that you can't just solve problems by just throwing more money on it. I mean, look at public school systems. We throw the most money at that and it doesn't solve our education problem. You know, you can't, we know as conservatives that you can't just throw money at something and hope it fixes it, you know. You have to actually have a strategy, you need to actually have deliverables, you need to actually have a plan that attacks many fronts. And I think this is what is pissing a lot of conservatives off. So, like, it's just the fucking let's just send money over there. Like, you're sending so much money over there with no accountability, no supervision, no results. Like, it done one thing, like, hey, we're going to send you these Javelin missiles. You better destroy 200 fucking tanks in the next month after receiving these. You know what I'm saying? Like, anything. Like, we're sending 31 tanks, right? We're going to send them 31 tanks. Why 31? That is my fucking question. Why do we pick 31 tanks? Because we need to, like, let's say the Biden administration says, hey, we want to send these 31 tanks because we want to secure city ABC by October. Well, okay, what? Then at least we got something. We're figuring out why we're picking 31, and we have a goal. And then we can know, like, hey, Ukraine got the 31 tanks. They did not secure the 3 cities in the next 3 months with them. They actually failed to secure it. Therefore, we can't just be sending them tanks. We need to change our plan. Or you could say the result could be Ukraine does secure the 3 cities and more, and you could argue that, hey, you know what? They did a good job with the 31 tanks. Let's give them more tanks so they could conquer more and continue on the next progress of the battle plan. But they're just sending tanks just to fucking send tanks. We have no actual outline or nothing to measure if the money we're spending is good or not good. And that's how you're going to lose a war, by just throwing money in. That's what happened to Vietnam. It got measured by how much money. We spent money. There was a point where in Vietnam, politicians were saying, like, hey, for every bullet spent, we should get a kill, you know. And if we're not getting that kill, we need to spend more money or less money. It's just, you can't win a war by just throwing money at it. And that's what's pissing off a lot of Americans. the most. I think that's what's really, really pissing him off, just throwing the money at it. Because we all seen in our own backyards, like, you could throw money at the public school system, it just doesn't solve it. You could look at any other government-funded program. Just because you throw more money at it doesn't mean it's going to get run better or be better. You're just going to be waste and inefficient. And that's what's pissing a lot of Americans off, a lot of conservatives. It's not that they don't want Ukraine to win. It's not that they want to see Russia succeed. They just hate the fact that, like, I don't even want to look at the total number now, probably over $1 billion or $2 billion of money and aid going to Ukraine, and no actual agreement like, hey, we need to see ABC done. That's what's the most piss off thing. Let's just finish this video here.
Tucker, I've heard that routine from you before, but that's not my concern. I'm running for president of the United States because I think this country's in a lot of trouble. I think Joe Biden has weakened America at home and abroad. And as president of the United States, we're going to restore law and order in our cities. We're going to secure...
Why would you say it's not your concern and say, oh, well, law and order is my concern? Like, that was just a terrible statement.
Our border, we're going to get this economy moving again, and we're going to make sure that we have men and women on our courts at every level that will stand for the right to life and defend all the God-given liberties enshrined in our Constitution. Anybody that says that we can't be the leader of the free world and solve our problems at home has a pretty small view of the greatest nation on earth. We can do both. And
yeah, you can do both. You just don't say it's not my concern.
As President of the United States, we will secure our border, we will support our military, we will revive our economy and stand by our values, and we will also lead the world for freedom under my administration. I promise you.
Amen. Vice President Mike Pence, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tucker.
Thank you. Thank you.
Like, if he just didn't say, it's not my concern, and then you just heard him say that rest of that, like, we're going to do both, I don't think he shoots himself in the foot. He literally shot himself in the foot and tried to play it off cool. Like, oh my God. I can't believe, you know, like, you think, like, professionals can't do this, but then you watch, like, professional sports, like an offensive tackle, false start, and you just think, like, you're paid $3 million a year to not move until the ball snapped. Why did you move? You know, it's crazy. It's crazy. How even professionals just fuck up. Little mistakes like that just lose on the game. But yeah. Ukraine war, like I said, I think most conservatives want Ukraine to win. I think they want them back to the original borders. They want Russia to stop trying to invade the country. But they don't want to just throw money at the problem. They want more accountability, more transparency where the money's going. They don't want it to go slipping someone's pocket. They actually want to see progress. They want to see deliverables, even intermediate deliverables, like, hey, our goal is to get this land, this land, capture this back, return this back, restore maybe power, water to these cities that were damaged. And even after you get the city, like, hey, here's our rebuilding plan to help Ukraine to rebuild and make sure it doesn't happen again. Things like that need to happen. Okay. Well, that's all I got for this little clip here. I just want to go over it and some opinions about the Ukraine war. As you know, the greatest conservative on the planet, myself. You'll never get any better opinions than this. Oh yeah, I'm hyping you up. And yeah, hope you guys have a good day. Take care.